Senate Judiciary Committee is set to vote on advancing Todd Blanche's nomination to become Attorney General on a permanent basis. It appears President Trump's former personal attorney now has the support he needs after he issued a pair of orders late Sunday night, rescinding the president's $1.776 billion so-called anti-weaponization fund. Blanche's order also clarified the president's settlement with the IRS for tax audit immunity for Trump and his family members, that it only applies to claims open at the time of the settlement and does not protect the president or his family from future tax filings. Those two one-page memos from Blanche were enough to win the support now of Republican Senators John Cornyn of Texas and Thom Tillis of North Carolina, who had blocked the confirmation vote because of that fund. The senators put out a joint statement yesterday, writing, quote, "From the outset, we were clear that we needed a written document addressing our concerns." The senators go on to write, "We want to express our gratitude to Mr. Blanche and his staff for working with us on this, and we look forward to voting to advance his nomination." Yesterday, MS Now White House reporter Jake Traylor asked the president about Blanche's memos.
Mr. President, did you sign off on Todd Blanche rescinding?
I didn't look at it. All I know is that Todd Blanche is great. He's going to do a great job. Everybody knows it. And I understand there's been a sign-off. But I don't know what they agreed. I think Todd Blanche agreed to reconfirm things that he's already said. And what he said was okay.
But this morning, there are concerns about legal loopholes the president could use to restore that taxpayer fund of nearly $1.8 billion. Okay, Lisa, that's a lot to comb through right there. Effectively, Todd Blanche, who looks like he's going to now make it out of the Judiciary Committee at the very least and could become the next Attorney General of the United States, put out these memos to kind of assuage the two senators, Thom Tillis and John Cornyn. Now they say, we're good, thanks for the written memos. But when you dig into what he actually wrote in those memos, what do you see?
I see a lot of possibility left for the president to restore the anti-weaponization fund. Let's start, Willie, with the fact the anti-weaponization fund is a creation of a settlement agreement between President Trump, the IRS, and the Department of Justice. And nothing that Todd Blanche did yesterday eviscerates or even modifies that settlement agreement. The settlement agreement obligates the Attorney General to create the anti-weaponization fund. Todd Blanche, of course, did so through an order in May. Yesterday, he rescinded that. But there's nothing that would preclude him from doing it all over again. These orders of the Attorney General, they are at best department policy. But at worst, this is really nothing more than like me scribbling something on a napkin, handing it to you, and you saying that it has the force of a binding written order, which is how Senators Tillis and Cornyn characterized it yesterday. That may be a political tool for them to sort of force Todd Blanche into a corner where he can't revive it at a later point in time. But as you and I both know, with Cornyn and Tillis leaving the Senate after the expiration of this year, their ability to enforce that binding written order, which is not a binding document or an order, is very limited.
And that's, J-Mart, just to go to you for a minute on this, that's what's so mystifying about these two guys, anyway, who are leaving town, effectively run out of office in John Cornyn's case by President Trump. He basically said, just give me something I can go on so I can vote for Todd Blanche. He doesn't need to protect himself politically. This chapter of his political career is over anyway, and yet he's appears satisfied by this memo, which, as Lisa and others have pointed out, really does nothing to stop President Trump from bringing it back. Why did these two senators go along for the ride on this?
I think there's an impulse to be team players. And, Willie, that current runs so deep in the Senate, and especially with sort of party regulars like Tillis and Cornyn. They don't want to be iconoclast. They don't want to do Trump any favors necessarily. But I think that they believe that they've gotten something now that they can hold up to block this from happening, at least for the next year, and that this is good enough for them to walk back into their Senate luncheons with their party and say that they're not trying to be obstructionists. They're trying to be constructive, but at the same time protect the rule of law and precedent. You and I know that Trump doesn't give two you-know-whats about whatever is on that piece of paper, Willie, but it's cover for two senators who are trying to be team players even on the way out.
Yeah, I mean, John, we know when we heard it from the president's remarks yesterday how he feels about this so-called anti-weaponization fund. He feels people were wronged, even though they were convicted by juries of their peers in many cases. I don't think there's a lot of doubt that President Trump, with his personal attorney sitting as Attorney General, will work to revive this and quickly.
No, he's made it clear that he will. And in recent days, it seemed like he was prioritizing the fund and these IRS protections even over Blanche's confirmation. He had threatened he was willing to walk away from Blanche, leave him in the acting role, so he'd gotten him in there anyway, in order to protect these things. And even when yesterday, as Blanche sort of signs these documents, Trump is still in the Oval saying, hey, I still think this is a good idea. Many people are saying it. So Lisa, there's also, of course, the IRS part of this.
Yes.
Which I think outraged many. And Tillis and Cornyn were not the only Republicans who expressed some misgivings about that.
Yep.
But the way this has been written, you have noted it can be changed, right? That there's some flexibility to this document, to the IRS protections going forward. And it's hard to imagine that Trump would want to let this go as he stares at his post-political life, in 2029 and beyond, when theoretically there's a Democrat in the White House, a Democrat Department of Justice, a Democrat Internal Revenue Service, and he's going to want as much protection as he can for him, his sons, his business.
Yeah, let's contrast this with the sort of killing of the anti-weaponization fund, which can be revived. That may have holes in it right and left, but this is even worse, Jonathan, because the way in which the tax immunity was granted in the first place is through a one-page order of the Attorney General. And it has some really stark language in there that releases the plaintiffs to the Trump IRS lawsuit. That's Donald Trump, his two adult sons, Don Jr. and Eric, and the Trump Organization from certain tax liability. But it also releases people who are related or affiliated individuals. I'm reading from the order right now, including without limitation, family or others filing jointly. Now let's flash forward to yesterday, where Todd Blanche, through an unsigned thing that looks like a press release, is saying, my interpretation of this is that it only applies to the named parties. That is belied by the plain text of what he signed on May 19th. So anybody who walked away thinking that this immunity was narrowed yesterday in anything remotely resembling an efficacious way is deluding themselves, deluding their constituents, and lying to the American people.
And posting memos on X does not constitute binding orders, as you've pointed out, could be easily unwound.